let's kick it off. Everyone got here on time, so we'll honour that, and whoever's late will just have to fall in when they get here. So, welcome to Morning Startup, everyone. Just a quick show of hands. Anyone here for the first time today? Quite a few. Because we've got a small group, if you want to, why don't we do a very quick introduction for the first timers? Maybe just your name, how you found Morning Startup, and then if you're looking to meet anyone in particular, maybe a co-founder, or if you're looking for someone in the tech space to help you with some app development or some programming. Anyone want to volunteer and do a quick intro of themselves? People that raise their hands. Go. Good.
My name's Phil. I'm looking at starting a retail store in Kwinana. I was just looking for somewhere to get some mentoring and networking. I think I was just Googling and just found this meetup thing by chance, so thought I'd come in and check it out.
See? Not too scary, easy. Anyone else? We'll do a couple more if we can.
I'm Daryl. I'm a software engineer in the geospatial space. I live in Wellington, New Zealand, and interested in anyone wants to be involved in a trans-Tasman sort of startup idea or situation. Just here to soak it all in and learn.
Anyone else?
My name's Paris Mitchell. I'm a graphic designer. I focus primarily on branding and typography. I found out about this just through meetups. I just thought it would be interesting to hear how Toastface Grillah went about doing business ventures with Ghostface Kilah.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Excellent. Good. Well, I'd like to think you've come to the right place. Hopefully our members will agree. So, Morning Startup runs fortnightly. Every day it was founded a couple of years ago. One of the co-founders, Justin, is actually not here today, but he should be back in a fortnight's time. I like to think of Morning Startup as sort of the entry point to the startup funnel of Perth, and it's where you can come to meet new people, and then from there hopefully progress to a startup weekend, and then start up and go beyond that. Just a quick word on our sponsors. Morning Startup wouldn't be possible without the excellent support from our sponsors. Major sponsor Beecham Group. Robbie, please give a wave. Beecham Group are very much focused on IT recruitment, speciality IT recruitment in the WA market, and they really pride themselves about actually supporting the WA market and making sure they connect the right people with the right companies and industries right here in the local market. And then we've also got support of Business News. Unfortunately, Charlie is not here this morning. He usually hands out a couple of free papers, so check out their website. Very good coverage of the actual WA specific news across all industries. And then of course Space Cubed, who very kindly give us this venue every fortnight, and probably the hub of everything startup in Perth. I think many good events and companies have started right here out of Space Cube, and then Voltage Espresso too. Community announcement. Sam, I'll get you up to...
Might just come up to the front.
Yeah,
That's
do
right,
that.
Thanks.
Take the stage.
Morning guys, I'm Sam from Atomic Sky, and just a quick one from me to let you know about the launch of our new program. It's going to be a 12-week program, very similar to some others you may or may not have heard of in Perth at the minute. But I think ours is going to be slightly different again to the ones that are out there. Applications are open now. I guess the key thing you need to know about the program is that it's going to be very practical, and it's going to be focused on what you're doing, so there's not going to be a lot of theory involved. It's more going to be kind of tips and tricks and industry best practice on very early stage startups. So come along. I think you'll find everything that we cover, me, Andy, Simon, and the mentor network that we've got put together for the program, going to be immediately useful for you wherever stage you're at in that kind of early stage bracket. So yeah, it's atomicsky.com.au/fusion. Applications are open now and are closing at the end of April. And we're hosting an information evening Wednesday week, so next Wednesday, 7 days time, at the Tech Hub over in Northbridge. And if you want any other info now, then just give me a shout after we've heard from Mike. Thanks, Steph.
Cool, thanks, Simon. Any other announcements or events that people know of coming up over the next couple of weeks?
Just the closing date for the Amcom startup, a couple of days time. So another incubator is Amcom Startup. For more details, go to amcomstartup.com.au. Basically, the closing date for that is this Friday. So you better get quick and get your applications in if you're interested. Basically, it's a similar program to what we just heard about. 40 grand for 8% of your business, and essentially they'll take you through the mentoring program with various different mentors and help you guide, and hopefully at the end of it have a successful business.
Okay, cool. So, Mike, that's Mike O'Hanlon. That's obviously the real reason you're here, and I'm also very keen to hear about Toastface Grillah and actually the new partnership with Ghostface Kilah. That sounds pretty exciting. But before that, there was a lot of other things that Mike has either started or been involved in. He started Northbridge's popular live music bar, The Bird. He was involved and co-starred, but not anymore, with Gramercy Studios, the events guide app Hipflask, and then of course the Toastface Grillah Cafe. If you haven't had a toasted sandwich from there, shame on you. It's probably the best toasted sandwich in Perth. And then most recently also O'Hanlon Electric Motorsport. And I believe there's an electric motorbike that you've also, the team have raced and won a competition with, taken out a title, so all very exciting stuff. So without further ado, we'll get Mike up to tell his story. Thank you, Mike.
Cheers. So I was just going to talk through, just in chronological order, about the different businesses, because any insights I've got on how they were successful or made in retrospect, and it wouldn't really be genuine to tell you that this is a roadmap of how I plan and all this stuff to happen. So I'm a mechanical engineer, and I've always been interested in getting involved in my community and helping make getting involved with like energy, food, transport, things that are actually useful for society. Find myself entering those at kind of fun places. I was working in a little tech startup. My first job was working with a professor at WA on a low energy use air conditioner idea that he had. And then I got offered a spot commercialising some tech that came out of UWA's motorsport team regarding using aerospace grade composite materials to reinforce civil structures. So I ended up really working as a materials engineer, and ended up with an opportunity to take that tech into the wind sector in Europe. Had an excellent week where I personally set the record for share prices at FMG. I bought them at their peak, so if you look at there's that transaction that they started going down $10.45 a share against Twiggy. I think they're worth nothing now. And then the GFC hit, and the cost of finance went up, the cost of fossil fuels went down, and the wind sector went from 30% growth per year for a decade uninterrupted to no new jobs, zero growth. I'd already bought my ticket to, one-way ticket to Paris, said goodbye to my friends. Had, the phone call saying the job interview doesn't exist anymore. I was a little bit upset about that. Went on a bike ride. Just, my dad said, look, you bought your ticket, you like your bicycle, you got a chance, take your bike over to Paris and just go for a ride. Did that, and then came back to Perth, and my closest friends around Perth were all jazz musicians. And I used to be the last audience that I addressed was a crowd of one. My last gig as Cordless Mike, I was Perth's dopest MC. You know, as every rapper will tell you, they're the best rapper in their hometown. And so I wrote an album over the course of 6 months or so. And at the poker night one night with all the dudes, because every Thursday after the guys played their gig at the Moon, we'd go back to someone's house and play poker. I showed the guys this album I've been working on and said, you know, what do you reckon? Well, let's be the travelling band of brothers and just have a sweet life. And yeah, my best mate came, put his arms around my shoulders and said, like, really, really solemnly, like, dude, your music is horrible. If you, like, none of us are going to get involved in your project, but if you open a venue, we'll help with that. So it's like, I was bummed out for about a day or two, but then because I've worked really hard on it, and I guess that's, you know, there's a fleurn right there, right? Yeah, I mean, I still think it's a good album. Yeah, so we ended up, that's how the Bird started. It was just, you know, a group of people that wanted a place where, ultimately I was thinking, I'll make myself a star, I'll put myself on stage every Friday night, but ended up, that wasn't a part of my life anymore. So yeah, we built the Bird, which, I'll just skip over the fine details of how we did that. But it was just we did it all ourselves. We was myself, my business partner Brenton, and a guy named Dan Nicola. He was the guy who told me to put my albums up. I ended up being the sound guy and bookings and PR guy. And this is right when Facebook changed how, like, I remember back in the golden era when Facebook, like, everything was open, there was no sponsored posts or all that noise coming in that you're not interested in. And yeah, when that changed, I was frustrated. So Matt Harley is the handsome gentleman in the grey hoodie over there, a girl who was housemates with me. And so I told him, I've got this idea for a more transparent way of communicating what events interest you. And yeah, we thrashed that idea out a bit, and it has evolved into Hipflask, which, contrary to what people think, it's actually Hipflask that Ghostface Kilah has invested in. Hipflask organised that gig at Toastface Grillah. But yeah, we'll talk more about that later. So yeah, that's where Hipflask came from, and then it was on a trip to London. Someone told me, I can introduce you to so and so if you can get to London the day after tomorrow. Which was like, okay, we better go do that, and went and made that connection. And I was out with a friend, staggering down Brick Lane one particularly dusty morning when just the words Toastface Grillah came into my head. I was like, well, that business plan just wrote itself. So I rang a buddy up there was a group of us looking to start another bar here in Perth. And yeah, opening a little cafe was just much easier. Because we had such a clear idea, like this will just be a hip hop culture based toasted cheese sandwich joint. That kind of came together as well. Gramercy Studios. Gramercy Studios is an interesting one. Who here's working on their own startup? Yeah. Who's got cash flow concerns in their startup? Yeah, cool. Yeah. So, people are here that are building an app and want to know if you can build an app for them, and they come to you with money. Whereas, we were just spending our own time, of course, and our own money, paying guys to help out. So Gramercy Studios came out the back of all those requests coming to Hipflask. And then as Hipflask got up on its own feet, Matt and I decided that, it's more, we'll just focus on Hipflask. So Drew's still running Gramercy, it's a good business, but we're not associated with that anymore. I tried to get an electric car share company off the ground. There's a lot of time and money spent on maybe being a bit too optimistic about taking a big city idea to to a small city where there just wasn't really that, not just critical mass of support, but even, well, maybe that's it, yeah, it's support in all its various forms from users, but also from like the city as well. And through doing my research to see what the size of the electric vehicle community is in Perth, I met the West Australian president of the Australian Electric Vehicle Association, Chris Jones, and he had this half-built race bike in his shed that he'd been speaking about. And after 2 or 3 meetings with him, I just asked, can I, because the third meeting I was at his house, I said, can I have a look at this bike out in his shed? And I'm a redhead, I navigate a rally car, all my scars and that are from a big stack that I had on a mountain bike when I was 16 years old. And so 2-wheel things, and I made a decision coming out of hospital. I was like, well, if I'm going to wear these scars, I better get some element of skill in this domain, because you're going to have to talk about this for the rest of your life. And I saw the bike, and it was obvious it was going to be a monster, but Chris had poured all of his savings into it and wasn't going to be able to get the bike finished in time for that race season. So I made a decision to sell the pub and sponsor the team. There's no real commercial reason for doing that at the time. It was just a hunch that, well, this is really cool and it's important that someone does it. And pub was a beautiful pub. It's my favourite pub ever. I don't know. I got bored, so started that. That's what O'Hanlon Electric Motorsport was the entity that went in and sponsored the team, and that's going to be winding up, because this year I said to the guys, well, if you want me to sponsor it again, I can put the same cash budget down, but you got to make the CEO and a few other things. So now it's Voltron electric motorcycles, and we're racing again. We've built an even lighter battery for the bike, so it's a monster. I should have at least had a photo of that, but I thought I'd captivate you guys with my the bike is nuts. I've got a 1000cc road bike, and the electric bike is far more intimidating. It'll go to 100 in 3 seconds, it'll go to 200 in 7 seconds, top speed of 340. It's a real monster. It's all in 1 gear, so it's a fixie, which is nice. And yeah, we won 14 from 16 starts in the last season. We took 6 seconds off the electric lap record at Eastern Creek, and we're now we got permanent permission to race against Club 1000 bikes, which means basically a hot street bike that an enthusiast level rider such as myself would be racing down the racetrack. Bike is on par with a 600cc petrol bike. Going down the straights, it's the fastest bike in Australia, including the petrol bikes. Going through the speed trap at Eastern Creek, we're faster than the fastest super bike. But because the bike's heavy, we've got a weight penalty in the corners, we're slower. So our lap times are slower than 600s, but our top speed is good. And as the battery gets lighter and lighter, if you think of the battery as being fuel, then our bike without fuel is about 40 kilos lighter than a MotoGP bike without fuel. So as battery tech gets better, that's the potential. It's the lithium air batteries, which people are talking about, and some people say they've got them working. They have the same energy density as petrol, so it's not like we haven't identified how to get it. And for me, that's really exciting, because it means being a redhead is kind of a sellable, it's kind of politically correct. And West Australia has a lot of lithium. If you guys don't know, there's a company that offices it 2 doors over called Talison Lithium, and they've got a little mine in Greenbushes that puts out 35% of the world's lithium. So it's owned by a joint venture between the biggest lithium supplier. Lithium, what do we call it, spodumene is the concentrate that they sell to battery manufacturers. It's joint owners. 51% is the biggest Chinese supplier of spodumene to battery manufacturers. The 49 the biggest non-Chinese. So we're really at the hub of that economy. So last night I did write a few things down. I thought I'd try to have some structure to this instead of just standing up here. And then this morning I thought I'd disregard that. I might revisit it. So everything that I ever did that was successful was because I had a co-founder who was there for the heavy lifting. As you can see, I'm kind of a distracted sort of person. You know, if you get a chance to have a chat, I'm always keen to have a chat. My mind will wander, and you'll say something that'll interest me, and I'll go over there. And that's symptomatic of how I am in my businesses as well. So they all kind of synergize with each other in their own unique way. Like for example, Toastface Grillah is going to sponsor the electric motorbike, which means the bike's going to be really visible, which adds value to my pitch when I say to other people, hey, why don't you sponsor my electric motorbike, because this is how many eyeballs it's going to get, for example. There we go, I just distracted myself. We want to talk about the value of guys like Matt, guys like Ben, who's sitting there with the blue thing over his white shirt, guys who can keep focused on a target. With the Bird, my business partner was Brenton Grove, and he's still there. He's really operations focused. Like he gets a standard way of attacking a problem, and we'll always address that situation the same way. And that's a real good balance. Maybe the point to think about is if you're trying to start a company, make sure you've got balance in your team. If you know that you're really loose, then find someone who's really thorough and tight to complement that. I don't think that you need a guy like me on your team. Most teams probably do very well because they don't have a guy like me on their team. Similarly with Toastface Grillah, Alistair is the tall blonde fella who's there who'll make you coffee. He gets upset if I stand behind any of the equipment trying to make a coffee or toast a sandwich because my near enough is good enough isn't anywhere near good enough. I didn't write that sounds right. And Ben started to identify that as well. So myself, Ben and Matt are the board of Hipflask. And I think for the guys to whip me into line, that my dream about like, hey, let's make it really easy for you to transparently find out what's going on in the social network that interests you, and there's no commercial distortions, right? Like, wow, beautiful. How the hell is that going to pay for itself? You know, and me starting to learn that you get these dreams, and then you got to build a team, and if you're the person, you might go, this is my dream, so it's my team and my agenda, but you're the only one doing it for the dream. Everyone else is doing it because they got to pay their rent, or that ultimately they're there to work. And if you don't respect that, you won't be able to build a team. I have one of the things that I wrote down and scribbled out because it was clumsy. Is this idea of if you take a business, if you try to compare building a business to a physical construction project, the idea of a builder and architect, that relationship, that you really need the guys who have got the builder's mentality who will actually get the job done, the architect for the vision. But if the architect's vision doesn't consider the reality of what the builder needs, then it's going to be somewhere in between, either too boring or unrealistic. I don't know. That's really where I'm at right now. There's one more step for me that's really exciting, and that is seeing this community and seeing how many people are really serious about starting their own companies across everything from retail through to your deepest tech projects. I've decided that I'm going to run for Lord Mayor of Perth, which is going to be pretty sick. because they got $100 million sitting in a term deposit that's just earning 3.5% per annum, and it's ridiculous. We've got so many bright people and opportunities to invest here. Recently, I've got involved with the guys at Perfectus. I don't know if you put your hand up if you know who they are. Yeah, cool. So Perfectus is St. Cat's College is across the road from UWA. St. Cat's have given a group of guys essentially an area to do something a bit like this Space Cube, but it's led by people who are, I don't know, early 20s, so 21, 22 years old. It's really exciting, really heavily dominated by tech personalities, and the kinds of ventures, investment opportunities are coming up there that, to be frank, if you're not a scientist, you're not going to understand them, so you're not going to invest in it. You've got some kind of tech vocabulary. And I just think it's really important, a huge opportunity for our city to take the lead in starting businesses and addressing global opportunities around, well, we've got that lithium, we've got all this sunlight. There's someone here in the room who's doing pretty well off all the sunlight. Anyway, I'll stop talking there, and maybe if you guys have got any questions, I'll happily dance around them. Have I stopped too early? Yeah. What's your name?
Thanks for sharing your story. I have two questions actually. One is around the team structure. The way you describe it, it's really good to know that, especially you handed over some of the responsibility of operational measures to other co-founders.
Yeah.
Especially in the startup scene, this is one of the biggest challenge, I believe, to find a good co-founder that actually complements your skill set. So how did you actually manage to find those people, and with the time, people say people change. When you start a startup, you have certain responsibilities, but once that is established or going, you tend to change it, and with that change, the frictions come and the decision making. So that's my first question: how do you actually manage it in the long term, the co-founder team structure? And the second question is regarding the investment point of view. Like, how did you find the initial investment to start so many of your ventures? Did you just invest yourself, or did you have other people coming in putting things? So yeah.
The easy one was the investment one. When we started Bird, I had about $7,000 credit left on a $9,000 credit card. I lied and told the real estate agent that I owned the house that I rented. I got the lease, and then started smashing walls out with a sledgehammer. And it was past point of return. Like the consequence of failure in that would not happen. Right? It's not going to go to jail for fraud or like destroying a property. Right? So there's nothing like necessity to make it work. From a blue-collar family, when my dad was 9 years old, his dad died in Ireland. My dad was born in 36, and that was 1945. He had to work the farm, and that's, my mum's from Sri Lanka, similar story. So the pub went really well, and the Bird sells more liquor per head of license than anything in Australian history, which is potentially anything in global history when you think about how people drink it. So it sold all right. And because it was a really visible success, like Toastface Grillah, my business partner, got a bank loan, and he said, well, if you provide the startup loan, the company will honour that loan. Yeah, so I kind of got off really light with the capital for that one. With Hipflask, I sold 10% of my share in the Bird to a business partner, and made some money available to pay some wages. But also a large part of that was saying to Matt, hey, I'll give you, I've got this idea, I'll give you half the shares if you do all the work, startup. And that, so motivating your partner, which maybe blends into that first question. You're just managing a relationship. So if you're not, I think we all see it in all our teams, the more time that you get to sit down with someone and talk to them about what they need. Like, the only way to evolve with someone is to be there and communicate with them. So as much time as possible in the room is I don't think there's a handbook for that. Getting someone interested in the first place. I don't know. I'm always attracted to talent. Like my partner at the time, Kat, who brought Matt to my attention, said, "This guy's like the smartest guy you're ever going to meet, and here are some stats about him." And then I meet the dude, he's handsome as well. I was like, okay, let's work. Similarly, it's a Toastface. Alistair, my partner, he loves making coffee, and he just loves social media. He genuinely gets satisfaction out of that stuff. With the motorbike, again, it was Chris is the guy who started building the bike. He's got such a scientific approach to everything. And the bike had been built with a real first principles approach. There's a couple of things that make a track bike really fast, and Chris was aware of them. That was more him attracting me. He paid attention to first principles, and then that made me go, okay, we'll do something. I don't know if that answers.
That's fine. Yeah. So how do you actually manage once the initial startup phase goes to the more mature phase where you go this way, the other person go this way? That part is also quite important to move the second stage of your relationship. So
yeah, I guess thankfully, or happy, because I need to sell one thing to fund the next. I'm not being like an equity hog. I think what's toxic to a business is when someone doesn't want to let go of that equity to acknowledge the value that needs to come in behind them. Like, yeah, I'm great in getting the first 3 people in the room to say, let's spend 2 days a week on this. But, if I made a commitment to you to say, okay, let's do something 40 hours a week, so we do this one thing, I'm not going to do anything else, like, I'm going to let you down because there are other things on the line. And I know that, and there's a phrase that's been in my head since I was a kid. I really enjoyed running and rowing, and I had a coach who had this idea of any seat in a winning boat. You got 1%. You make room to get all the right people in. Yeah. So I think that's it. Just being happy to.
Any thoughts of taking your electric motorbike to a roadworthy sort of commercial model from a race team?
Definitely were interested in it, but even if that was a petrol bike with no new tech to it as a starter, how do I say this? I guess I know firsthand how you can get hurt when you're on 2 wheels, and that would be PR nightmare. I can imagine. I have this every April Fool's. I think it'd be funny to do a press release: electric bike kills dolphin. Got off the Narrows Bridge or something, But there are just so many ways that it could go wrong. You get a 200 horsepower bike, and people confuse the racetrack with the street. And that's something like I'm a massive rev head, only on the racetrack. I drive a crappy old 4-wheel drive, Planet, really slowly on the street. So yeah, it's a funny one. Yeah.
How did you, with your app, how did you go about marketing that? Because, apps are significantly more difficult to market.
Yeah. The idea there is that we just provide quality. So we don't spend much, we haven't spent money on marketing. We've just been focused on building a real quality product. We started noticing that the kind of user that we want to get on board is someone who knows what the tastes are. Let me start that again. So what we started doing recently that's going well is taking. So we've got a gig coming up in 2 weeks, and that artist. What the artist wants out of the app is some publicity and visibility. So we've got a nice little basement under Toastface we call Old Dirty Basement, which is a reference to Old Dirty Bastard, who is a Wu-Tang fan up the back there. One of Ghostface Kilah's buddies, now deceased. So we'll take, get a band down in the basement, simple handheld video. I'll say to a band, like, okay, you can rehearse down there free of charge. It's pretty well set up. But know this, I'm going to come stumbling down the stairs and video an element of your jam and put that online. And so then when you've created unique content, you know, and it's the guys doing something candid that there's not usually an insight into, like a band just jamming. And we found that gets a lot of views. And so, you know, you've got a piece of content there that's getting a lot of views linking to the app, ultimately. Because every event that's visible on our app is visible on a web page, and that web page has a link up that tells you to get the app, or suggests you to get the app. So it's all around just trying to think about what users are looking for. As a bored individual sitting in your lunch break, or not at your lunch break, at your desk at work, you know, the pretty colours and safe for work videos, I guess, are important to get people clicking on links. So it's all very, every day we try something a little different. And we keep it's really just a mental list of what goes well and what doesn't. Yo.
You guys are doing an expansion of Toastface Grillah, yeah? What, to the US?
Yeah.
How are you going about doing that?
That's the subject of a meeting later this afternoon. But so I got three business partners in Toastface. Two of them are really keen to go and live in the States. So it just starts at the start. So, okay, we're going to get our visas sorted. One of the guys is going to fly over. The three out of the four of us went over to New York with Ghost and his people. He stood us up, but I've become friends with his manager, so that's all right. We found a location, we found an area we want, and we saw 2 or 3 lease opportunities that are suitable. So now we're going to send one of the guys over, and he will confirm the final location, find bread suppliers, small goods suppliers, work out what coffee machine and what beans we're going to use. Once he works that out, one of my definable skills, maybe my only one, is I can quickly jump in and put a timber deck down to do some construction. For the Bird and Toastface, I had the building license for both of those. I had a year off between school and uni and worked as a brickies labourer, so I did all kinds of construction labouring. So I really like, as Matt once said, I really like to get the shirt off and just get the tools out. It's good fun. But so that's what we'll do there. Just go open one little one. Probably get a food truck and another outlet happening here in Perth, just because that's a lot easier, and the cash from those can support the New York venture. Because obviously New York will be expensive. Yeah. Yo.
Can you tell us a bit more about the food truck idea?
You start with the truck, right? I actually want to. My mum's Sri Lankan, as I said, and she's got a friend, and they're both fantastic cooks. And I was thinking of maybe trialing out this idea of the mamas and the papadums as a kind of curry joint. But the food truck idea. If you're having multiple outlets, you need a vehicle for transporting goods anyway. We cater to other people, to other cafes that fly ourselves. So it kind of just makes sense to do that. Hipflask has built the app for the Food Truck Rumble, which is happening on this coming Sunday. And that's led to us getting to understand the food truck scene and what was looking for and the size of the opportunity. I don't, maybe if you got a more specific question, I don't quite know how to answer.
It was really a general question. I mean, food truck, the idea of food trucks here is still a bit new.
Yeah.
That was prohibited like 2 years ago, if I'm wrong. But then there was some early attempt, and now this fair is going to gather quite a considerable number. So it's expanding. Yeah. I would just want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, yeah. It's a cool thing. I mean, it's funny what you said about it being outlawed for a bit. It wasn't so much outlawed as not giving permission to the industry, wasn't allowed to exist anymore.
It was gently prohibited.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing that we find in Perth. You know, we've got a lot of old-fashioned institutions. I look at the taxi Uber situation. You know, whether you're a big guy coming in with a disruptive model or a little guy coming in with a disruptive model, you're going to see that there are people who have, like, the big issue that the food trucks have is that people like me, not us specifically, but lots of cafe owners, have the position of like, hang on, I pay rates. Food trucks don't pay rates. So as voting vote, they put pressure on the Lord Mayor to say, don't make this in, or else we're not going to vote for you. So, yeah, it's an interesting thing. See you there on Sunday. Download the app.
Is that your campaign as Lord Mayor? You're pro food trucks?
It's not my campaign. I'm pro jobs. You know, I think we got. Yeah. I'll try not to broadcast too much about. Yeah, point that. Yeah, I'll talk about Lord Mayor stuff later. Like, yeah. Yo.
Sounds like you're having, thanks for sharing your story, Mike. It sounds like you're having an awful lot of fun, getting to do a lot of very different projects, and there seems to be a little bit of romance going on as well, which is also a great thing. When you're having so much fun with people that you get on so well with, how do you kind of keep each other honest in the sense that the work gets done and that you're productive despite all that, as well as having fun at the same time?
Yeah. Well, you hit the nail on the head, but that's really important. I don't think I have a strategy for that. It's just, you find yourself in a room with friends, you want to help each other. You want to help each other work. I'm lucky that I'm surrounded by good people who want to work hard. That's how I've outsourced that responsibility to someone else. yeah. But no, you're right. It's really important. I guess when I was a kid, I had that bike crash. I was 16 years old, and my teeth are. That's filmy, isn't it? Oh, fuck it. So. Yeah, I took a big hit when I was a kid, and I remember it was a lot of effort to get out of bed in the hospital and go look at myself in the mirror. And I was quite a state, and that was where my teeth had come roots first through my lip. My steel frame sunnies had peeled my nose. The road had changed the profile of my nose. Slide on, because I was riding over the crest of the hill, and there was some people with prams and whatnot, and so I went to just do a little wheelie off the curb. And at that point, my suspension force disassembled, so I didn't have a front wheel to land on, and I was going about as fast as I could. So it was pretty nuts. My tongue was split up the middle. I got no bottom teeth as well. There's gravel where my bottom teeth should be. You can see my cheekbone. I hurt my wrist and I grazed my neck. And yeah, sometime after, I don't know, a few days after laying there drooling, because I couldn't close my mouth because it was all swollen up. I crawled over, wanted to see what I looked like, so I crawled over bed. It took I don't know, what should have taken 10 seconds, I don't know if it took a minute, 10 minutes or half an hour, whatever, it felt like ages. And yeah, I looked in the mirror, and that was an unexpected sight. Like, it was pretty gnarly. You know, you see Hollywood scenes that look like that. And that's where it became really important for me from there going forwards, just to have a lot of fun. There's a couple of ways that you can deal with any situation. So fun, you hit the nail on the head. Fun is, like, I won't do something if it's not fun. Anyway, I don't know where that goes. There's a personal insight, please. Yeah.
Maybe one more question over there. And then we'll wrap up.
You have a lot of ideas, and it seems the key to your success has been in that you have the ideas, but then you pull the people around you to make it happen, because a lot of the time, I guess, with entrepreneurs, they think they have to be able to do everything and pull off ideas that they don't necessarily have the skills for, but they've identified a niche in the market. Has that been the key to your success? And have you had more ideas than what you've actually executed?
Oh yeah, without a doubt. The team is everything, you know, and your role of coming up with the idea, that's such a tiny aspect of a business. You know, it's all follow-on, yeah, exactly what you said. All those follow-on steps. There's, I don't know how to quantify it, but the idea is almost worthless. You know, you hear people say execution is everything, and then execution in those early stages is, yeah, again, all about a team. I like to think about where your problem's got a sort of spectrum to it, and your team should have the same spectrum of strengths as your problem. One of the first projects I ever looked at was an example of a great idea, but I had no ability to. It was actually one of the first. Yeah, I really upset basically a company called American Superconductor, because I asked them a very detailed question about the costs of high voltage superconducting cable, high voltage DC, to link Perth to Adelaide to the East Coast for reasons of balancing the grid, the electricity grid. I was really interested in how I could use my engineering brain in the energy sector, and I thought, oh, this is a cool opportunity. I'd like to understand the costs here. And the question I asked them, they thought I wasn't, like, I was just some kid with an email address, and they thought I was a company because of what I'd asked. That's put a lot of resources into answering that question. And yeah, it probably wasn't. Sorry, American Superconductor. Yeah. Yeah, but that's an idea, example of like a great idea would bring utility to a lot of people, but totally uncosted and no ability to put it on. So, what was your specific question?
No, it was just interesting because you can have a lot of ideas, but then actually dealing with the obstacles that come up with that, because you have to do your initial assessment.
Yeah.
And so I was just interested in how you got from an idea to actually pulling the team together and overcoming the obstacles to make it happen if you don't have all the skill sets in that area. Yeah.
So I guess maybe if I think what I ultimately bring to a team is like, okay, here's an opportunity and I can do this bit, and it's usually a really narrow bit. I can do this bit better than anyone in this room can. Does everyone in the room want to help me do the rest of it? And I'll do that bit. And then you get everyone to go, okay, I can do that bit if you guys do that. And yeah, just being realistic about where your strengths are, and making sure that your expectation for equity reflects that. Founders don't necessarily have to be majority shareholders.
Good. We'll wrap it up there.
Cool.
All right, well, that's the end of today's session. If you're sitting on a fold-up chair, please be so kind as to return it to the front. We will be back in a couple of weeks' time. We've got the guys from Minna there talking about their awesome drill alignment hardware that they've recently built and taken to market. So that'll be quite interesting. It sits in that hardware space with a big tech flavour to it as well. And we have this area until about 9 o'clock, but we'll probably kick everyone out at around 10 to 9. So please use the time now to network and catch up with some old friends. All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dan.